Every Pokemon version since Gold and Silver goes through what I like to call the Dark Ages, which is where a year after a game comes out, they don't like it. Whether it's because of a new typing, or because it's got too much water, whatever it is, they don't like that version of the game until eventually, a couple years later, they like that game, and it becomes the standard for what people enjoy. But it seems like X and Y never really got out of the Dark Ages. So today we're going to play Pokemon X, and unlike my X, I shouldn't be getting cryptic messages at midnight. So we're going to use the underappreciated Pokemon, and who knows, I might even go to like Tierno. Just kidding, I could never go to like Tierno. And so we start Pokemon X, and we're greeted by objectively one of the most attractive people in the Pokemon universe, Professor Sycamore, and given actual customization options, something we haven't seen so far. We're greeted with violence from a fletchling. We get dressed and head downstairs to see that our mom is kinda I need help people. I use friendship and rivalry to get over my Oedipus complex, and we head out to our first route. There's some small details in this game that I love. Those little flippy signs that happen when you enter each route is awesome. The most hated person in this game is not in fact the person that tries to take over the world, but Tierno. And I'm kind of on board. Speaking of unwanted things, we finally get to our first Pokemon selection, and I choose Spritzy. Now you might be wondering, why Spritzy? Well, it's not stats. Spritzy and Aromatisse are great. And if you choose Fairy in this game, you're just gonna have a great time. It's pretty broken. It was about expectations. What people expected to get was a Plague Doctor Pokemon, and what they got was this. Basically, what a lovely bridge provided. Shauna confuses both Serena and myself with her stupidity, but we'll keep her around for now because she's pretty much a walking Pokemon center inside of the forest. Can't face the gym leader without changing my clothes first, so I head on down to her lair after that. And can I just say, I love the gyms in this game. They're well thought out. I love the design of them. I love the little preview you get before you walk into each gym. And I also love the little animation that it does before you get to each gym leader. Viola is not particularly difficult, but I don't think I would have won if I didn't get just an amazing confusion spread on her Surskit and on her Vivillon. The badges are cool in this game, but unlike previous installations, I can't shine them, and that kind of makes me upsetty spaghetti. I know this is gonna sound weird, but some of the places like Sycamore's lab with the music behind it seem a little bit like it's Kingdom Hearts inspired. Am I crazy for that? Or is that... I could be crazy, that's fine. I steamroll the Kanto starters with Echoed Voice, which honestly is too good of a move to have at this level, but I digress. I send Bulbasaur to the box, and then we're greeted by the obviously a villain character in this game. Not the true antagonist, by the way. Tierno's gone for now, but he'll come back stronger than you could ever imagine. That's a great Star Wars reference, and if you failed to get that, it's like pearls before swine. I'm catching Furfrou for a kind of a weird reason. Furfrou is such an interesting case to me. He's hated because he's popular. People use him to kind of abuse the trading system, and many people in different games like Pokemon Go and Pokemon Home have grown to hate the little guy. So he's popular, but my concern is that he's only caught to trade now. A trophy, and not a team member, and that's why he's on this list. We get the quick farming sim, and by the way, if anyone creates a full farming sim Pokemon game, please let me know about it. I will play the heck out of that. Esper's a strange case because I'm pretty sure people like Esper just fine as a Pokemon, but as someone that they want to take with them on their journey to fight things, he's not that great. His stats are just so underwhelming at this point, and they're only gonna get worse as we continue through the game. So he's on the team. Can I be so honest with you and just tell you that I didn't actually figure out the maze part? I just sort of wiggled the joystick around until it let me pass. I think the game just gave up and let me have this one. Trevor joined the dark side, so we had to teach him a lesson, of course, and then I see just the funniest thing. I never saw this on my original playthrough. I just love that they ganged up on the Survivor. We travel through a really cool looking and useless aquarium to catch our next Pokemon. People hate on Binacle and Barbaracle for a lot of things, but mostly the design. They just call them hands or like hands guy, and you know, it's just weird looking. The second most hated thing in this game, aside from Tierno, is Team Flare. People hate these guys, and for some good reasons. They don't have a great reason for being villains, but I like them. I like their style, and I like the little flashy fire thing. My chief complaint is that I just wish they were a little bit more fleshed out. In the Sillage City Gym, we do some training to become the world's best Pokemon trainer. And then we face Grant, the leader of the Sillage City Gym. Now, that animation you see with the little drop there is us going Super Saiyan. Not really. It's us using the move Calm Mind. It's a move that I'm pretty much gonna abuse during this playthrough. And that's because I'm not good at the game, and I have to rely on cheesy setup moves for me to be able to get through this game as quickly yet as funly as possible. Funly is a word, don't look it up. For all my years and experience playing the game of Pokemon, I've never gotten good at it, so my Pokemon still faint just as regularly as a casual player, and because that's what I am. So it's also worth noting that this is the type of gameplay that I have fun with. And what are video games if not to have fun? Full disclosure, things are about to get a little bit deep. Pokemon has always been fun to me, but it started to feel like a bit of a chore when making these videos, and I wanted to really make sure that I was having a good time while playing, otherwise these videos really wouldn't mean much. My goal is, amidst all the competitive Pokemon playing and all the battles and all the people that are trying their hardest to get to be the best they can, you remember to have fun with it. Esper evolves, and I swear it's starting to look more and more like a Digimon evolution sequence every time the games happen. Carbink is interesting because I think that it's not actually that bad, it's just that Diancie exists. It just seems like wasted potential. Speaking of waste, Tierno shows up and provides absolutely nothing valuable. We go to this cool tower and face off against our actual rival, Serena. The thing about Serena is she's not that good. I mean, sure, she knocks a couple of my Pokemon out here and there, but ultimately, none of the times that I faced her in battle were all that challenging. And it's due in no small part to the fact that Fairy is just gonna ruin her day. I know that the game is set up the way that it is because it's trying to deliver a specific type of story, but I do wish that the game, unlike its predecessors, would let you lose to your rival. Instead of whiting out and going to the Pokemon Center, you would just continue the game, knowing that you lost and could have won. In my mind, it would make the competition seem more real and like the player has achieved something when they actually beat the rival every time. Just like I beat Corona, because I have a Psychic Pokemon, and she only has Fighting and no really good resistances to Psych. But she's not done. I have to face her in a battle I can't lose. I didn't do this on purpose, by the way, but apparently the game thanks you for it being your birthday. This is the first generation I'm aware of that happening, but if it happened earlier, just let me know in the comments. Another, I guess, kind of bad point about this game is that I'll say the rival battles aren't that well spaced out. They don't feel random. Sometimes your rival just warns you, hey, we're gonna battle soon, allowing you to get perfectly prepared for what you're about to face. I try to use my whole team whenever possible just because it feels like cheating if I don't, and I just go straight to my OP Fairy Pokemon. And speaking of using the whole team, this game has EXP share, which a lot of people hated at the time, but I love. Also, we evolved into Aromatisse. I don't have the evolution because I hacked to get it there because you need to have a trade link cable for the actual evolution. We go head to head with Ramos, who is easily one of the most forgettable gym leaders of all time, and also the most diabolically evil. Like, who puts books inside of a tree? Think about it. Think about it. Books are basically just dead trees. So he's putting dead trees inside of a tree. I don't know, it just feels wrong. I make my way into the very hard to find because of the impossible puzzle Team Flare hideout and face Alfalfa from the Power Rangers. I mean, Aliana, and I beat her. I run into an old guy outside of the big city who's kind of creepy and just kind of weirdly says a cryptic thing. Okay, look, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that the story for Pokemon has always been great. It classically has not been. X and Y is no exception, and I think what fails for me is that it gives too much importance to bad parts and not enough importance to the little parts. I think X and Y's problem is simply that they tried to do too many things. Like, there's so much focus on Mega Evolution, and that seems to be the most important thing, but then there's this whole thing with Lysander and the Old King, and the champion is somehow a little bit involved, but so is the professor. And then you try to throw in this friendhood rivalry arc with 4 different characters, 4 different perspectives, and you get a game that is so cool, yet feels incomplete. Don't get me wrong, I love this game, and I'm glad to be playing through it again. And hopefully Legend ZA mentions some of the stuff that we've always been curious about. My Binacle evolves into a Barbaracle, and I go into this weird haunted house. Can anyone explain to me the weird tipping thing going on in this game? Yeah, anyway, I change my clothes and go to the fairy gym, which is the most underwhelming. It's basically just Sabrina's gym remodeled. Valerie herself was also decently easy to get through, which a lot of people say is true for all the gym leaders of this game. This is often touted as one of the easiest Pokemon games to get through, and it might be, but there were definitely gym leaders that I lost to more than once. There was actually a gym leader I lost to 4 times, and if you can guess which one in the comments, I'll probably just give you a thumbs up and a little heart. I make my way to the Pokeball Factory, where once again I see Team Flare and their illustrious use of creative eyewear. I send them packing, and then I get a reward from the Pokeball Factory owner, a Master Ball, which is really convenient since I'm about to catch the last member of our team, Bergmite. Why Bergmite and Avalugg, you might ask? Well, it's because of the typing, arguably one of the worst defensive typings, and its design. Basically, a coffee table. I face off against Serena again, and she's evolved her frog into the thing that really can't take any fairy moves. She's got a good fairy counter with Flareon, but it really just doesn't matter because I outgun her in all the other cool ways. And it's Doggo versus Doggo, and my Doggo's better because I give him trims. Bergmite evolves into our awesome iced coffee table, and we go to one of the coolest gyms to ever exist and face Olympia. Admittedly, I don't watch the anime anymore, so I didn't see the X and Y season, but one of two options is the case for this. Either we are in a pocket dimension built by Olympia herself, and that's really cool and something that a lot more people should be talking about, or she's decorated her entire gym to make it look like we're in an altered dimension, which seems also really expensive. On the one hand, she could be supremely powerful, and on the other hand, she could be wasting taxpayers' dollars. Lysander openly reveals that he's been the mastermind behind all the goings-on in Kalos, and the police and authorities, who all seemed very keen to keep a 10-year-old out of the center of the city, now have nothing to do with the evil organization. It's now time for one of my useless and probably untrue Pokemon theories, but I actually think that Professor Sycamore and his two masked vigilante aides are actually trying to help Team Flare, not stop them, and I'll give you a cool piece of evidence, at least I'm considering evidence, at the end of the video. I just love this location for snapshots. I got a picture of myself with the Mega Weapon, and then I head down into the Team Flare headquarters, where I face Lysander, and I beat him because I'm the protagonist. I face off against Mr. Clean or Howie Mandel, whoever you want to think, and beat them as well. Shauna wants to be a third wheel too, so she comes along, and by the way, this is one of the points in the game that does also make me feel like it was written by someone in the Kingdom Hearts team. This entire headquarters building, this fight, all of kind of what's led up to this, it just feels very epic, very Kingdom Hearts-esque. I catch Xerneas on my first try with the timer ball, and then Dr. Lysander comes out and wants to battle. And I'm gonna win again because, once again, I'm the protagonist. Now, in all reality, this was actually one of the fights that I lost going through my first time, and it's because Pyro just would not miss Fire Blast. No, there was actually a lot of reasons that I lost the first time, and honestly, I thought I would lose more times than that. Our type matchups just are not good. And one of the things that was giving me the most trouble was his stupid Mega Gyarados. I mean, this thing comes out and it knows Iron Head, which I don't know if you've noticed about my team, but we are not particularly good against Steel type moves. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't have a single Mega Evolved Pokemon on my team. But then I remember I do have something that is useful in almost every battle of this game. That's right, the Fairy type. And Moonblast kills the faints the Mega Gyarados. Lysander smashes his equipment, which I'm not sure why he was wearing in the first place, and then he blows up a town. And so I make sure to get a quick selfie. I tried to cut my hair, but it wasn't a good look, so I went back. Piece of evidence number one that I think that Professor Sycamore was actually in league with Lysander. He comes after me with 3 level 50 Pokemon just after I've foiled Lysander's plans. I don't know, seems kind of fishy, Sycamore. He loses though, and he has to try to play it off. And then Shauna and I, for some reason, put our very lives in danger by trying to test the structural integrity of this suspension bridge with a Pokemon like Avalugg. Basically, a very structurally sound bridge provided. But let's do some math real quick. I'm about to go into a bit of a monologue on the safety and construction of rope bridges, so if you want to skip that, here's a timestamp. Just a heads up, I beat the Ice Gym leader, and I'm going to talk over that to talk about bridges. I'm going to assume that it's using 1-inch standard manila rope and that they're about 2 to 3 feet apart with those anchors and knots. Now, the rope itself is actually one of the strongest parts about the bridge, having a breaking strength per rope of 8,000 pounds and a safe working load of 810 pounds. So 4 ropes would normally give the bridge a 3,240 pound working load and a total breaking strength of 32,000 pounds. But we're not just standing on the ropes, there's planks and anchors as well. For this equation, I'm also assuming 2x6 pressure treated lumber. 2x6 lumber can support about 400 to 600 pounds, and I'm assuming that they're gonna stand on, like, let's say 4 planks each. 4 planks by 500 pounds is 2,000 pounds. But then there's the anchors. If fastened properly, they'd be designed to handle at least half the total bridge load, so let's say 4,000 to 5,000 pounds there. But they're not just standing on the anchors, unfortunately. And now we need to adjust the load for dynamic load. Dynamic load is like things that might happen like high winds, or in this case, a freaking Pokemon battle. So we're gonna multiply our adjusted load by 2. Now, when we crunch the numbers, the safe limit for this bridge is 3,240 pounds, and the current load is 3,164 pounds, which means that we only have 76 pounds of remaining capacity for this bridge to be safe. In fairness, this is with Goodra and Avalugg considered, which are the 2 heaviest Pokemon on the field, but I also only multiplied by a factor of 2 for dynamics, and I probably should have done more considering the fact that these are Pokemon moves. moves. Long story short, we found the most structurally sound rope bridge in all of existence. Speaking of structurally sound, I love the Elite Four entrances of X and Y. They are just so epic, so awesome. I just love walking into all of them, except for this one right here because, well, do you remember when I said I had a glaring weakness against steel type moves? Yeah, I didn't fix that. So I lost to Wickstrom probably like 6 or 7 times in a row. I wanted to face him first so that I wouldn't fight the other 3 and then wind up losing against him in the end. Speaking of Klefki though, let's talk about the honorable mentions that could have made it into the Pokemon that no one uses in X and Y. Klefki starts our list because it's just a set of keys, and people have classically not liked the inanimate Pokemon. However, this is one of those generations where I think they really do start to stand on their own and people have started to learn to accept them. Litleo and Pyroar. They're fire types, but they're kind of underwhelming, and you also get access to some really cool fire types in this game, namely Talonflame or Charizard or Delphox. So why would you pick Litleo? He probably doesn't get played that much, and if I do this again, he might make it in. And lastly, Scatterbug. It's weak, and its evolutions aren't much better, and they feel like kind of a ripoff of Butterfree, but I mean, honestly, which Cocoon Pokemon isn't a ripoff of Butterfree at this point? And also, it has that weird collection problem that we talked about with Furfrou. I finally managed to beat Wickstrom because his Scizor froze and Ice Ball just dominated the rest of that match. I got pretty lucky and I abused it. Speaking of abusive power, the media mogul known as Malva steps into the ring. Secretly a member of Team Flare, it's shocking to me that they just kind of let her keep her position in the Elite Four. Now, I've seen some stuff saying that, oh, well, it never went public, but like, she is clearly a member of Team Flare. She's got the eyewear and everything. Like, where are the police officers in this universe? Like, Officer Jenny is never to be seen. Nurse Joy, always in the Pokemon centers, but there's not a police station, and there probably should be at least a couple. That said, she's not that difficult because I've got pretty good coverage against fire Pokemon with a water and rock Pokemon and a regular rock Pokemon. When he knocks out my Barbaracle near the end, however, my Meowstic comes in and I'm able to tank a critical hit and deal the final blow. And just like that, I'm off to face another member of the Elite Four. Again, I love the animations that they did for this. Seabold is, I don't know, pretty underwhelming for me. I honestly can't decide at this point if I want more interaction with the Elite Four before I get to them, or if I want them to kind of remain this mysterious force that's only accessible after you've beaten all 8 gym leaders. At this point, it's pretty much a standard trope to introduce us to the Elite Four champion before we actually get to the Elite Four. But in game design, this has always been sort of strange to me because in a lot of the Pokemon games, you have the evil team, which is obviously evil, and then after you've beaten all of them and the 8 gym leaders, you go to fight the Elite Four. Well, what if the Elite Four was the culminating event? Because at this point, it seems almost like Pokemon tries to do 2 different storylines in every single game. Beat the Elite Four and the 8 gym leaders, and while you're at it, just go ahead and take care of this evil team. It's even worse when you get to Scarlet and Violet with like the 6 different storylines. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's because I talked over like half the battle, but Drasna for me is one of the most forgettable Elite Four members of all time. For the record, if we're doing like a playthrough of people instead of Pokemon, then I'm picking Tierno, Valerie, Drasna, and the other guy, Marcos. It's also worth mentioning that through all these fights, I haven't really had to try it that hard. It is a pretty easy Pokemon game. The only Elite Four member that I lost to multiple times was Wickstrom. Everyone else I won on my first try, and it's because the type matchups after Wickstrom are pretty in my favor. Also, for viewing purposes, and so that you guys don't just get completely bored while watching the playthrough of me just trouncing over this Elite Four, I tried not to use Aromatisse that much by spamming Calm Mind and just using that the entire way through. However, that is not the case against Diantha. But if there's one Pokemon that I'd like to brag on more than any other aside from Aromatisse, it's got to be Carbink. I mean, it almost feels like I hacked to get his IVs and stats better than they were in this game. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he just absolutely pummeled the beginning of this fight. It's as if he had something to prove to the future owner of Diancie or something, but he's a defensive tank, so of course he's taking all of Hawlucha's stuff. I was originally planning on only using him to set up Stealth Rock and a good Reflect, but once I had discovered that he could pretty much tank all the hits, I decided to keep him out and use Moonblast. Because Hawlucha's fighting, it does a decent amount of damage, so I keep him out, because with Reflect and his already crazy defensive stat, I can see that I can take down her first Pokemon. And I thought about switching him out after that, but then I thought, well, The Reflect's already up. I've only got so many turns left with it. I might as well just try to get off a quick Moonblast here. Tyrantum comes in and he uses a devastating, or normally devastating move, but I still tank it. The amount of recoil on that move was just enough so that when I use my Moonblast, it takes him the rest of the way down. This unassuming floating rock has completely shifted my mindset, and Carbink has quickly become one of my favorite Pokemon because of it. Of course, we go down to a muddy water, but still 2 Pokemon of the standing champions to an unassuming floating rock is pretty cool in my book. I send in Meowstic because it knows Disarming Voice, and I think, well, Carbink just did pretty good with Fairy, that there's no reason for Meowstic not to do good with Fairy moves. Unfortunately here, I get hit with a crit, and that's not the most devastating in the world, and I have to keep Meowstic in, so I fire off another Disarming Voice, and of course another Dragon Pulse is just going to take me down. Crit or no crit, it really doesn't matter. I send in Aromatisse. Now you might think that, oh, you're just going to spam Calm Mind and then build up all your power and then go ham on all of our Pokemon. And you're pretty much exactly right. It's just, well, a couple things actually. The first being that I don't trust myself enough to not win without these tactics. And the second thing being that there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong with this strategy. If Goodra gets off a decent Fire Blast and burns me, then I'm having to spend most of my time trying to recover my HP instead of actually attacking with a move like Moonblast. If I'm stuck trying to recover, then that means that I'm not going to have a chance to really go up against her Gourgeist, which is going to be a big deal because Gourgeist has that move, I forget what it's called, but it can change my typing. The thing is, I need my typing because if I don't have Fairy typing, then all of that stuff that I said about the beginning about OP Fairy type goes away. Aromatisse finishes off Goodra, and then Diantha sends in Aurorus. Now, let's not forget about the cool work that Carbink did with his Stealth Rock because Aurorus takes a massive amount of damage from that. Anything can happen in Pokemon, and I'm pretty glad I didn't get frozen, but man, a critical hit, it was pretty bad in that specific spot because now I have to worry about regaining my health. Let's not forget that Aromatisse's major flaw is the speed, meaning that most Pokemon are going to get a move off on me before I can get a move off on them. See, I go down to 32 HP, and if it had been a critical hit, all of our efforts into getting those Calm Minds would have been for naught. Thankfully, I still have the move Draining Kiss, so I'm able to attack and heal simultaneously, which is not something I can say for my opponent, who does keep on spamming full restores. Finally, her champion comes in with Gardevoir, and I had forgot that Mega Evolutions even existed in this game until Diantha uses one. As a side note, since Mega Evolutions are so new, I think each of the Elite Four should have probably had one. That would have been pretty dang cool. If this fight had been animated, this clash should have been so cool because it's Moonblast versus Moonblast. Of course, I've got some Calm Minds up, so her Moonblast doesn't do that much, and my Moonblast, because I'm the protagonist, is gonna just do a lot of damage there. Sure, she heals with a full restore, but that's nothing in the face of my critical hit against her. Maybe Aromatisse is a Plague Doctor after all. I get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'll be honest with you, this is probably one of my least favorite Hall of Fame type of things where it does the whole circle thing, because it means I can't capture all of them in just one snapshot. And another point I'll be seriously honest about, why is Tierno standing up there with me? Why is Trevor up there? Why is Shauna? They did nothing. I literally, maybe Serena and Shauna did something at the HQ, but neither of the other two. Anyway, during my red carpet ceremony, I get challenged to a battle by this really tall, really old guy, and I get a chance to show him what the guy that beat the champion is made out of, and it's mostly rocks. And I don't know why, or specifically how this battle was supposed to feel, but it certainly doesn't feel like a culminating event. It doesn't feel like a huge last trial that I have to pass. It just feels like a regular Pokemon battle that I might face against a regular trainer. Like, he's not as strong or skilled as the Elite Four members. He doesn't have as many Pokemon. He's not as strong as the champion. I mean, I like Pokemon battles as much as the next guy, but it just felt pretty unnecessary. I mean, if it was this insanely difficult Pokemon battle and you only got one shot of it at the end of the game, that would make it somewhat memorable. Remorade. Words are hard. Anyway, I beat him, and that's the end of the game, except for, why does Sycamore not act surprised that he's 3,000 years old? Oh, I mean, unless he was working with Team Flare all along and knew exactly who he was. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy this video. Have a great day.